Likutei Halachos, Tefillin, Chapter Vav, Halachos Yud and Yud Aleph. Here, Rabbi Nassan circles back to the idea at the original part of this parak of this chapter, and explains the following: that Pnei HaTzadik, the place of Simcha, is when you're Lifnei Pnei HaTzadik, which radiates with the divine energy, the Shechina, and that's a makam of Simcha, Rikudim, Yeshuos, Kolrina, Yeshua B'alei Tzadikim. And the person who fulfilled that initially was Aaron HaKohen, who received Moshe Rabbeinu, as we'll read about now, and what we entered Sefer Shmos, V'samach libo. He received the face of Moshe Rabbeinu, which had just spoken to Hashem at the sneh, and he did so b'simcha. This is why the Kohanim were zocha to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, which is the place of hitznotzetzus hamochim, where a mind in God awareness opens up, which is through simcha, by the way. And they do melechas hamishkan Beis HaMikdash, as it says in Mishlei, chazisi ish mahir b'melachto. So what a great thing it is to be a person who does quick work, works quickly. And these are the Kohanim who work in the Beis HaMikdash, as we say, Kohanim zrizim b'avodosam, it says in Gemara Shabbos, Kohanim zrizim. They do everything quickly because they're filled with energy and they're filled with joy. And people who are in the opposite are lazy and slow. They're filled with atzvus or depression and sadness. It's because they're not in that place of Shechina. They're not in that place of Simcha. They're blocked from it. Now, the Kedushas Tefillin, Rav Nassan says, inside the Batim are the Parshas in the Torah. Read about Bechor, read about the firstborn, which is the concept of Kahuna, and this is very much connected to Kedushas Tefillin. And by the way, he mentions previously that we wear tefillin to get up in the morning. You're supposed to get up in the morning early, pre-dawn, even for Tikkun Chatzos and on, and learning and davening, and you put your tefillin on pre-dawn, and that brings the chiyus, and that brings the light into your mindset. And this was the work of the Kohanim, who were Zerizim, and also began their work in the Beis HaMikdash before dawn with the Trumas HaDeshem. And as we know, Tchias HaMesim, every day putting on tefillin was a little bit of Tchias HaMesim, especially if you do it when you daven nates. And the Kohanim were entrusted with this key, as we know. Eliyahu haNavi is the key to Tchias HaMesim. As we mentioned earlier, this is why Aaron HaKohen and the Kohen Gadol Bifrat have to distance themselves even from the tomb of the 7 relatives, the Shiva Krovim, that one a normal Kohen is allowed to become Tameh for, but a Kohen Gadol can never become Tameh because he's associated with this idea of Tchias HaMesim. And the last parsha in the Tefillin, says Rav Nassan, is about Tchias HaMesim, which is because it says, L'man yirbu yemechem v'imei b'nechem al ha'adama asher nishpa Hashem la'avoseichem lases lahem. The Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Tzadik and Perek Chelek says, lahem, it should have said lachem. Lahem, to them that will come later. So this is a reference to Tchias HaMesim, and that's what the Gemara in Chelek represents. Lachem lo ksiv ela lahem mikan l'tchias hamesim in the Torah. It brings there several sources where the idea of tchias hamesim, which kofrim deny, and people who deny it have no chelik in olam haba, and they looked for proofs from the Torah itself. And this is one of the proof texts that's offered in the Gemara Perek Cheles, that there is a reference to tchias hamesim in the Torah. And he goes on to say that the tefillin themselves represent the panim of the tzaddik. That's, as it says, Hikitzu v'ranenu shochni afar. They will be raised from the dust. That's Tchias HaMesim. And Tchias HaMesim primarily will be in Eretz Yisrael, which is again a subject of the Parshas of Tefillin. As it says, L'man yirbu yemechem al ha'adama, which is Eretz Yisrael, because that's the main Tchias HaMesim, why people strive to be buried in the land of Israel. And the key to that is anava amitis, true humility, which is not being sad, depressed, and helpless, because that's false humility. Real humility is, I'm going to do great things, malacha mehira, great works, but I'm not looking for any credit for it. I'm not looking for any personal gain from it. And you cannot, therefore, be what the Rebbe calls a shlamazolnik, a lazy person, because a nava actually gives you zerizus, like a kohen, to wake each day and fulfill Hashem's desire. Now, Nassim says the reason why people have to die is they have to return to the afar. The negation of the guf is that they go to true humility, which is that they do become afar. The afar of Chutz La'aretz, unfortunately, is tamei, but the afar of Eretz Yisrael is tahor, and that's why Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz HaChaim. And actually what it does, as the Ramchal explains, by the way, that death and disintegration of the physical body allows the soul to go to Shemayim, be completely recharged, energized, and cleansed, and eventually be reunited with the body in such a way that it has enough power to transform it, like Moshe Rabbeinu did himself, into kulo light of serving Hashem, and chiyus sitra dechaya. And that's the opposite, of course, of the Nachash, who is Afar Lachmo. He eats the dirt. And that's, of course, the Nachash representation of Gaiva and Taiva and all the things that are Motziim es Adam Michai Chaim.